We will call to order the Canton Joint Recreation District Board meeting for June 16, 2016. Director, will you call the roll, please?
President Rinaldi.
Here.
Vice President Skiles.
Here.
Member Ross Friedman. Member Peterson. Member Lembo.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
All right, we have a quorum, so we are able to conduct business tonight. All right, moving on to item number 2, approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to this evening's agenda?
President Rinaldi, the one question I have is your email earlier about finalizing a date in July for our meeting.
Correct. You want to add that in?
Section
we can,
11. Item 11.
We can do
Right now,
that.
I do have a question mark down for scheduling a meeting will be held, because typically we do not meet in July.
Right.
So if there is one, then you need to have that.
Well, if we don't firm that up tonight, we will let Member Peterson and Member Ross Freeman have some input. Maybe we can pick a few dates before we leave this evening and share it with them, and then we can go from there. But with our existence on the final days, I think that we need to meet as really, we're just adding one extra board meeting to where July was always an off month. But with us transitioning out, some of our business will going to need to meet. So we will do that at number 11.
Do you want to do, oh, okay.
Yeah,
Just
we'll do
we'll
before
discuss
we
that
leave.
number 11. Actually, make that 9A. Make it 9A. Any other adjustments to the agenda this evening?
I move that we approve the agenda.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We move on. Item number 3, approval of the minutes for the May 19, 2016 meeting. Can we have them approved?
I move that we approve the minutes from the May 19th meeting.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Moving on to item number 4, approval of the financial reports. 4A is general fund cash disbursements for May 2016. Item number B is general fund financial statement for May of 16. And 4C is investment accounts for May of 2016. We can lump those 3 together. I need a motion.
I move.
I second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Moving forward. We will move on to transition, the Community Partners Transition Committee. All right, getting caught up here.
Okay, in your packet, there is a letter or invitation from Director Gordon for the Community Partners Transition Committee. He is present today, if you would like to speak upon it.
Sure. First of all, look forward to working with you guys officially now to bring this merger together. And I think I don't know if you have it in front of you, but it's essentially our first step to bring everyone together as a group instead of individually to talk about where we're heading, what that vision is, and what those steps are going to entail. I'm working very closely with the law department right now to determine not necessarily what those steps are, but how and when we do them. And I'm hoping at that meeting we can shed a little bit more light so everybody, each one of the partners, know when and how we hope to make that happen. May not have everything answered at that point, and we know we're going to need individual meetings with each group just to talk through what those details are. So we think it's a first step. We hope that everybody can have representation at that meeting. We know that it may not be everyone, and we've got to be careful with sunshine laws and everything else to make sure we're not over that. But I think from our standpoint, we'll make it a public meeting because we know we're going to have all 3 of our commissioners likely in attendance. So that's the first step. And if you guys have any questions specifically, I know our priority 1 is to get the Recreation Department employees and those answers right away, or as fast as we can, because we're already in one house. We might as well get our neighbors in quickly.
Exactly.
All right, you guys have any questions?
This time, no.
All right.
Wait for that meeting on the 19th, might have something.
Hope so.
Yep, and maybe we can schedule our meeting to be at 4:30 that day prior to the 5:30 meeting at the Garden Center. So where we can kill two birds with one stone if that's a date that would,
That'd be
That
great,
would,
that'd be great with me.
that would
be an
work for
option.
everybody.
At this
So-
point, it could be an option, but, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, but if not, we'll move on from there, so.
We can probably make that happen, and I know we've already talked about in between our scheduled meetings, having joint meetings with the rec board, because I think there's gonna be some dual actions that'll be required at some point to make sure we're all talking.
No, and I do like how you want to announce that, and I would even invite all the school board members to where, if you reach out to them, if they come, great, if they don't. But I would announce that as an open meeting for the three bodies.
Sure.
And then everybody's covered and everything should be good,
Sit next to you.
so.
Excuse me.
All right, thank you, sir. Moving on to personnel. I know Member Peterson is
I
the
had
chair
no-
of the
yeah.
personnel committee.
I had no report from them.
Can I, actually, one personnel item that I think will impact you guys in a positive way. I have distributed to both staffs, and you're welcome to have a copy as well, marketing special events coordinator position that I'll be bringing to the commission at our next board meeting, hopefully for approval and incorporation into our job classification. My opinion is while we have to incorporate a lot of folks, that's a position that we've never had. It's a position that will not cost us any more money because it will fill the void that Teresa Gang, our former office manager, left. And it's something that I think our community centers, our park district, our rec district, we've struggled with because we've all tried to do it on our own in roles and responsibilities that just aren't our top priority. So, don't mean to put my two commissioners on the spot, but depending on how that goes, that is something I'll be bringing forth to them, and if it moves forward, I think will benefit all of us.
Now, where do you plan on promoting that opportunity?
At minimum, we always put it on our website. I know, Sam, you have a variety of outlets from the city standpoint to put that out. We've had a pretty good amount of success, at least through the Ohio Park and Recreation Association webpage. And I mean, anywhere that we can post it, I'm happy to do so. So if you have ideas for the schools or otherwise,
Dare you say, like special events, will this person have anything to do like with bringing tournaments in here for softball?
Again, we'd have to talk about that a little bit more. I think it'd be more focused on helping promote those tournaments as opposed to running or.
Oh, yeah, I'm
Moving
not
those in.
necessarily
Yeah.
saying running, but
Yeah.
making our facilities available, such as today.
Yeah, Ron, what, this person would help promote those and make sure that everybody's aware of those, but the more special events, the enrichment style, things that
Oh,
they're
okay.
doing, movies in the park.
I think, okay.
The trunk or treat, more of a family, large scale, special events is kind of more of the theme.
But they're gonna have to be intimately involved when those tournaments come to town and others to get the word out, to help gather more teams, things like that, for
Right,
sure.
right, okay. I mean, 80's a lot of teams, but we could probably do 84.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, moving on to policy. Anything from the policy committee?
I do not have anything.
Thank you, sir.
I do know that the conversation has been trying to mirror the two that we had over the last number of months, so can you shed any light on that, or Greg, as far as where the policy changes have been addressed?
In regards to specific
Yeah,
policies?
for example, the rec department, we were trying to mirror what the park was doing.
And that's been implemented through our maintenance staff, so we're currently working with the same schedules out there in the shop. I think the shops have worked hand in hand with special projects and have been more communication than they have in the past number of years.
Yeah.
On everything that's going on, so we have a more detailed understanding of where people are going and what's being done in the out in the parks and for the facilities and stuff.
I think from some of the HR standpoints, though, one of the questions for the law department right now is, we're so close to January 1 of 17. I know it's summer, so I don't want to talk about winter yet, but still, their question that they're asking and trying to advise us on is it going to make more sense to come to you guys and try to work out something financially to where rec folks come over before January 1 and you guys somehow pay for their services on the city side, which could get pretty complicated and take a lot of time just to get that achieved, or do we get everything in line and just execute it January 1?
Well, we have money budgeted for salaries and whatnot.
Right.
If we need to create an MOU to get through and start moving the process
Right.
forward quicker, we have money appropriated into the 2016 budget, so I don't think, but we would have to make sure
I don't think the
that
holdup
Chris
is
and
you
Joe
guys.
from the law department,
Yeah, I don't think the slowdown
we
will be
need
on
to
your
step
guys'
by
end.
their
Yeah.
step.
And I
You
think
know.
we're gonna have to have council approvals for job classifications. They're in summer session, so it can take several readings. I think the holdup will be on the city side and how quick we can get those approvals. I know I'm working furiously to get all of those classifications and proposals, an organizational chart that I hope to have everybody review here soon, that where I'd like to propose how everybody fits in. But then the law department's gonna have to get to work and figure out how that all fits. But then they're gonna have to let us know whether, is that gonna take enough time that we're wasting our time with an MOU where we have a month or two left and just wait till January 1? Or, if we can get it done by August, September, I think we should
Right.
look at doing something like that.
But I think that the more that we discuss it, I think that we really need to just go off their lead,
Absolutely.
because we could come up with a plan that holds no water. It'll be full of holes in the bottom of the bucket, so.
Mhm.
But I know they're working on it. I
Yep.
spoke to her the other day, and, comfortable to keep moving the way we are, so, good. Anything else from policy? All right, finance.
Transfer for Stark County District Library invoice. This is the Recreation District's portion of the bike share program. This was omitted from, it wasn't, it was in the budget, but we used that budget money for some other improvements. So this would have to be approved to be taken out of the carryover. This was a contracted, agreed upon rate for the next 3 years. This is year number 2. I believe, of that amount. So we just need to transfer it from the carryover into our capital improvement fund so we can take care of that.
Question I had is, with the assumption that we weren't quite merged yet, is this something you have in your budget for the following 2 years for 17 and 18?
Yeah, I mean, with your funds, or the additional millage coming in, that was the intention all along. Things could change up a little bit next year. We're having some challenges with the vendor right now that we're using, and they haven't necessarily met all of the demands that we've had. But when that time comes, that number could fluctuate a little bit if we break that contract. But for now, we hope to stay with that for 3 years, and then we'll revisit it. But the number, the good thing is that number went down from last year because we had the initial startup costs. Those are gone. And then as we're hoping some other private businesses start buying into this, which, again, because of some of those challenges, they haven't quite pulled the trigger yet. As the credit card fees come in for the folks from out of town and others who don't have a library card, that will reduce all of your bill, our bill, everyone's equitably across the board.
Okay.
So if that model continues, that number should continue to go down.
Yeah, the only reason I ask is because until it actually happens January 1, I mean, that falls under what we approve.
Mhm.
So if not, that's something we would have to earmark.
Oh yeah, it's year to year,
Right.
and the library just didn't bill us until now for 27 or 16. So they paid for it up front, and now they're hitting us back for this calendar year. So next calendar year, it'll be in our budget.
You guys already paid your portion.
Yeah, they billed us the same time we did, so ours is in process right now.
Pardon me, with being new to this, who do we share with this?
The bike share program is a collaboration between Joint Recreation, Canton Parks, the Stark County Library, and Stark Parks.
So it's 4 people, but we only have to worry about 1/6 of the,
Combined, we're a third, Stark Parks is a third, the library is a third.
And multiple, bigger cities are starting this program now,
Yeah.
and larger
No,
metro
I'm-
areas.
I just wondered where the other funds came from, so.
Okay.
Yeah, that takes care of it.
Do you need this approved?
Yes, we'll need to approve to transfer from our carryover to pay the invoice.
All right, I move that we approve the transfer for the Stark County District Library's bike share program into the carryover account, or out of the carryover account.
And I second it.
All right, we've had discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let's have it. Moving on to item number E, facilities.
Facilities, Youth Sports Summit handout. That should be on the bottom, I think maybe the last handout that you had.
Next to last.
All the way at the bottom, it was an additional
That
handout.
was the 2 loose ones too.
Yeah.
Yep.
youth sports center?
So as we move forward with a combined Parks and Recreation, and I've had discussion with multiple organizations, service providers, leagues, and the schools themselves. I think we sit on a great opportunity with Canton City Schools now being one high school. Everybody's going to be a bulldog going up through. That we start that conversation with those organizations of what do we want our youth sports to be in the city of Canton. And this was kind of the idea, the concept was to at least start those initial conversations with the school administrative staff, with some of their athletic groups, and the Parks and Recreation, because I feel those two entities are going to really kind of need to take the lead, so to speak, on this task. A lot of the youth organizations use our facilities, and they, ultimately are going to be in the varsity sports and go into the schools, the junior high and the high schools. So that was my initial intent. Wanted to put this out and discuss it as a group, or just kind of show you the idea in the process that I was thinking about, and we can have discussion on it and go from there.
No, I can share that. I think Member Limo has me beat, but I know I've been around Canton City Athletics since 1986, and I've watched so many initiatives start and so many initiatives just fall flat. And now that we're one school and whatnot, the only thing I'm going to say is if we're going to start this, it has to be finished. And it has to be pushed, and it has to, we have to make other people better to stay committed to it. Too many times. We did so much. We met and had a framework, and there's times when the board failed to get 3 votes or show any interest, and there's times when the rec department kind of, but I've been through too many of these things, and we're at a point now to where the kids have to have some leadership in this town, and it starts with everybody in this room. So I'll do whatever I need to do. We'll push the buttons, what we need to do, but the bottom line is we got to follow through.
Yeah.
Putting it on paper is easy. Bottom line is put your money where your mouth is. We have a facility being built right now from the Hall of Fame that our kids are going to enjoy that we could have never afforded. And if we don't utilize every asset and every piece of that place, we're doing them a disservice. So I welcome anything that makes things better for kids in this town, but we got to have follow through.
Yeah.
And
Greg, did I hear something with youth sports for football about getting in the Federal League lower level?
We did. RC Hill and I met with the organization I don't know, a couple Sundays ago. Had some pretty lengthy conversation. Okay, so I don't want to mess it up. The Northeast Ohio Youth Football League, not conference. They have accepted us on a trial-based probation period. So this is our first year. Last year, they allowed Lake in, so they went from 6 communities to 7 with Lake. Now with Canton coming in, that makes 8. So they will, RC's midget football program has 10 teams. There's 3 in the upper age groups, 6 in the lower. They will be put in different categories or different leagues within that system, so that instead of playing our own teams over and over and over again, we're going to have the opportunity to play Green, Lake, Jackson, and so on and so forth.
outside competition.
And that's also in my director's report, and that's a huge step I feel in moving forward. And I'm going to work with RC to make sure.
Please stay on top of it.
We're going to, and I was just talking to them today. Actually, we're looking at working with the Babe Stern Center and Performance Group to provide opportunities for every child who plays tackle football to get a baseline concussion testing done for free or with their insurance. So that we're finalizing that, looking at the second week of July. So that way, if somebody does get hit pretty hard or does have something, their bell rung, typically the physician that they take them to doesn't know the child. They have no idea what their baseline is. So it's going to take, we have to check the baseline, go on through that process. If they do get their baseline test, they can walk into the physician and say, hey, this was done by Performance Group, here's all the baseline numbers. You can do your test now, or we can be tested by Performance Group, and we can see if we're off, if we do have a true concussion, or if we're back, and then we can retest until that athlete's back in playing condition. So it's going to be a huge positive. So we're finalizing all those. I had a meeting today. So we're really pushing and trying to help those youth organizations as much as we can.
And just make sure on that probationary period that we don't blow it.
I will do everything that I can.
Monitor as best as you can. I
Yes.
think it's a great opportunity for us.
Yep.
Well, I apologize, I was mad at the meeting in May, but walk me through the process now that RC and the Canton Rec Department has, because I know there was a roadblock as far as him releasing control.
The partnership we currently have is the Canton Midget Football Program utilizes the city's fields for their practices.
Yep.
And we work hand in hand on scheduling those, assigning those, and making sure that those are available for the residents. As far as that's pretty much where we end. I mean, we have we've suggested multiple things,
Mhm.
but it is their own entity and their own league,
I remember
so to
that.
speak. So as far as putting any other controls, we can as a group put controls in the usage of our facilities. Mandatory background checks for coaches, mandatory training being provided. We've talked with the head football coach multiple times. He's already done some trainings and stuff for them. So we're getting along those steps to help them become a better league.
How did we handle the process of their nonprofit?
I have given him the information again. He was unaware. He told me that his
Well,
account.
you can make him aware that if he doesn't have
I
a
gave it
valid
to him.
501c3,
Right.
I mean, we have tightened up a lot of the laxity around here,
Yeah.
and as you know, that's a key component to being able to use these facilities.
Because here's my
and
next
our
question.
programming.
Here's my next question. Without the 501, he has to pay for this.
Under our
So-
facility usage policy that we put together we approved last August,
That's all.
the #1 provider of the service would receive the first usage of the facilities. It does not dictate if that is a not-for-profit entity or not.
Okay.
If there's a not-for-profit entity that is the #1 provider, then they definitely have the facility first. But since no other organization currently is providing youth tackle football, the midget football program is still the #1 provider.
Well, and to Member Lemo's part is, the fact that we're on a probationary period, he has to understand he's held to a higher standard, because if we're going to put our name on this group, he has to understand that, we have an oversight. And, if he fails to control it, then we can no longer put our name on it, or he has to relinquish the control over to us. I understand it's private, don't get me
I don't
wrong.
know if we can do
But
that.
I know, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
No, I understand that, but my point is you have to have control over it. I've known he's had this program
Well,
for
he's
30
got to be
years.
held accountable for that.
But both of my brothers have played in his system. But, if we're going to now be a part of, the Federal League, getting these kids prepared for freshmen and older, he has to understand it's a different program.
Yes, and him and I are working hand in hand. I'm doing the best that I can,
Right.
and again, I'm still an outsider.
Stay on it, that's
I'm
what.
still an outsider within the organization. We're the facility provider, but we do not take the registrations, we don't put teams together, we're not in charge of background checks, that's all the league itself at this point.
If I can add to that real quick, I think that's where this youth summit and the school's involvement, making sure we're on the same page with them is critical. Because if the schools say, look, this is the type of top-down system we want for our varsity program for football, and we're backing that up, that's never happened before. We've always kind of been on different wavelengths, and for a variety of reasons. There's been too many entities trying to get on the same page, and I think we have an opportunity now to make that happen.
Well, and the other piece of the puzzle is, for a long time, a lot of folks did what they wanted in this town. Everybody had a key to Fawcett, everybody had a key to Don Scott, and those days are over. Even for our scheduling with the school system now, to where Legacy is going to run the events up at the Hall of Fame Village, and educating our folks that you're going to have a structured practice plan. And it's going to have to be months out, just like any other major college facility or a pro facility. In the days of playing at Fawcett, opening the gate and doing your thing, those days are gone. But it falls in line. We've got to get all this in line, and I think we've got to start on it. But I also think that, making sure that everybody has a background check, current 501c3s,
Well, he said
on file
we
that
won't
people
be
can
into the
access.
background checks. But do we have any liability in this?
We can, I guess, I don't know if this organization has required background checks for all coaches who use our parks. I don't know if that's, I mean,
No, only if they're a program of us.
yeah, so only if it's our program that we do the background checks on our coaches, our volunteers. Historically, from my understanding, so baseball coaches and/or football coaches who utilize city property have not historically been background checked by our department, or we have not required them from the other organizations. That is something, though, that we can
Well, I just worry about the
rectify rather
liability. in it.
quickly if you guys would like to see that happen, and I would be all for that.
I think,
So,
sorry, from a liability standpoint, I think there's as much on the parks end as it is the rec end.
Exactly,
It's on
no.
our property.
Right.
We do have some recreational immunity, but I think, if we're sanctioning the league and we're scheduling their fields, I feel like we have some culpability there. And I've talked to the law department about that a little bit, but, no one wants, RC to have, we want him to succeed, we want the program to succeed.
Sure.
But at the same time, to your point, we've got to make sure it's all being done
All
straight and narrow.
up,
Yeah.
and we're protected, both parks
Exactly.
and recreation.
Structure.
Which becomes one very soon, so.
And that goes back to my Wild West comment. We need some structure. So, anything else, Greg?
No, that was the important parts of the Youth Sports Summit. We're looking to get a meeting with the schools and Parks and Rec here. Probably not next week, I think the week after. We're looking at availability. I think Derek's going to be, you're going to be off next week for vacation.
Starting tomorrow.
So we will try to find and make sure we have a time that everybody can be at that meeting to at least start the very beginning stages of this. I mean, this is very much in its infancy. We want to make sure we get it right, so we don't want to try to rush.
Youth sports, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that there's some building access issues we've talked about repeatedly with the schools. There's some, the contract that we have with them. We want to make sure the administrative side of this is kind of worked out before we talk about a public meeting. I want to make sure we have something really solid to present when we get to that point with the summit.
And this is larger than
Presenting it.
football.
Yeah.
It goes to facility usage for girls' basketball program, volleyball program. We're allowed to use the junior highs during the weekends and the morning time to offer those. What kind of scheduling opportunities do we have? So that's really kind of where we want to make sure we're all on the same page. As we are trying to provide the services, we have to make sure that the facilities are going to be available.
One thing as we craft that new contract with the school system, the thing that I want to put in place is that if there's issues, we need to know, not second and third hand. If the schools, if we're not doing our part of the plan, we've got to know about it. Hearing something second and third hand, it doesn't make any of us look very productive. So as we move into this new look, we have to know of problems immediately. And if they're not being rectified, then we're going to make them right. We're going to put that pressure on people to be efficient, because so many things have to come together now. And if we're not doing the little things, the big things will never fall in place. So just one of my concerns.
how's that going to work when, in actuality, the Recreation Board is going to dissolve, which has 2 members from the Board of Education there?
Well, when
Now,
we
won't.
dissolve.
Let me finish.
Okay.
When we won't be represented in the new board unless one of us is selected from the school board to be on the park board, the new board.
It'd be from the mayor. The mayor would make the appointment. that makes the appointments for a
So
park
the
commission.
mayor will control everything, is that what you're saying?
The 3 appointments to the park commission are made by Mayor Burnham.
Okay.
So every year there's an opening, so it would be up to him how he wanted to
But-
handle that.
How are we going to work together? Well, not we, I won't be here. How will the park department make sure that they have this working relationship that the president is talking about
With the
with the
schools?
school?
Well-
If we don't have anybody from the school monitoring it and coming to this meeting and going back to that meeting and reporting to
I mean,
that board.
I would certainly love to see, and I know in other communities this happens, where there is a liaison back and forth that goes to the board meetings. And I know there's also a contract that it's dated, but between the schools and the recreation district. And what I would hope to see, and I know what Greg and I are starting to dig into, is tearing that contract up and rewriting it with park language, or the commission, or the city, whatever entity that needs to sign off on it, and making sure that that same type of relationship still exists coming over to the parks with the rec employees as well. So that's the goal. Now, that's going to take time, and that's what we have to do over the next at least 6 months. A lot of departments also looking into, just because January 1st rolls around and there's no more funds coming in, that doesn't mean that the rec department necessarily has to be done on January 1st. So if there's still some things we have to work out, I think there's still some time.
There has to
and-
be
and
an
what
exit
flexibility.
mechanism that the law department crafts for us.
Correct.
For us to manage, basically.
Mhm.
But I know with Canton being a statutory city, there can't be a position out of the 3 commissioners earmarked for the school district unless something's changed in that. That was the
That's
big,
correct.
a year ago, that was the big conversation. So even if we wanted to have inclusion per per
Our
state
revised
law,
code. Mhm.
we can't do it. But moving forward, I think that the biggest thing you look at is trust.
Well, but
And that's
we
it.
could have,
Right.
had we gone with the rec structure that provided 2 school board members and 3 mayor-appointed positions, and you 3 voted against that structure, which is fine, but it was provided for under that structure, and it was voted down 3-1. Where do we stand currently with the janitorial services and renting the gyms? Because that seems to be the stumbling block.
I've requested a meeting with Tad and Patricia, who have been traditionally my point people for using facilities. I got an email back today that said that they won't have availabilities or let us know what is available in the schools up until September. So I called and said that doesn't work for me because we're putting our program guide together now, and it's going to be out in August, and I can't wait that long. So I'm awaiting a phone call back from the schools to see how we do with that. For the gym rental portion, though, and what was our hiccup last year is that the custodial staff, their hours changed, so they're done at 9 o'clock. So our rental times, we couldn't guarantee that a custodian would stay over an additional hour to cover a recreation program. So we weren't allowed to, I wasn't going to take your money and say, okay, you go at 10 o'clock, and the custodian say, you know what, I'm done.
Well, that's it. That's exactly right. And so we were talking about solutions to that problem, and I assume that
And I
this whole thing
I
is-
had a very
I have someone
intimate
here.
conversation with Ernie Sams from the OPSI union and Tad Ellsworth at a board meeting, and I shared with them how our gym rentals from the 8 to 10 p.m. hour are in half. Our revenue is in half. And if those folks can't work that 2-hour shift, the 8 to leave at 9, then we're going to have to craft a plan that we staff it with our folks.
addresses it, right?
Exactly, and I've shared that with Tad, and he's aware, and Ernie Sams, who is the OPSI president, agrees with us that, these facilities are open for the public to use, and if they're not getting the job done, then we're gonna need to find someone to get the job done. So,
And we had
they
staff-
are aware of it.
And we had a staff member there. The problem was there needed to be a school employee there as well to lock the building up at the end of the day.
But if they're not able to facilitate our need, then we're gonna need to find a way to get that done.
I think we have an option.
Right, and I will follow up with a phone call to the superintendent, actually either tonight or tomorrow, to where this is one of the things we need to fix, because that's just unacceptable. So, but we're on it, and we're trying to get things done, so.
Okay.
Good enough for me. I have a couple announcements just in the facility. I talked with R.J. Van Allman of the Amateur Hall of Fame, and he and I are going to co-chair a building drive for the building here. We're going to try to raise some funds to clean it up. It's a very old, beautiful building, but I think we need some lights. When you have a meeting and people have to move around the table because the lights burn out, that's just not acceptable for us. And I also want to get the maintenance crew up here, and I want to get the outside of the building cleaned up, the windows washed, some of those things. I think we just need to do a better job of housekeeping and whatnot. So just two of the things, and RJ and I will spearhead that. We'll keep you guys updated. Stay tuned for some announcements. We're going to have a fundraiser, and we're going to keep this gem as much as we can. I think moving out of it, it would probably die a slow death if you quit using it. It's like any other older home.
Could you email that to us?
Yeah, yep. But excited about that, to where we can do some things inside and get some lights and do some cleaning and painting. And I think some of the stuff was around when William McKinley walked up and down Market Avenue. So.
If I can, I met with RJ today as well, just to talk about the contract is currently with the Joint Rec District, and then there's arrangement with the city with you guys. So I told him come January we'll need to talk about transitioning that over as well. And we talked about some building space issues, and obviously there's some maintenance thing we'll need to look into for the long term.
Well, let me ask you a question. I mean, you know, I'm a little absent-minded, but you know, when I played A-ball, I mean, I knew that you know things were more annually updated. How often do we update things here?
We had a good long conversation about almost every group here, I believe, has an annual enshrinement. They continue to induct members into their hall. The problem is some of them don't necessarily have the same resources or the members to keep up with some of their space. And I think the thing that I'm most excited about with RJ is he's had a lot of conversations with the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and they've been kind of waiting to see what was going to happen here before they engage them further. But after our conversation today, he's going to reach out to them and have them potentially come in and do a consult to say, how can we make this easier for our folks to maintain on a regular basis? The number one thing that comes to mind is possibly digitizing a lot of this and having some sort of computer or database right there, because I can't tell you how many times people come in and say, hey, my grandfather's in here. Well, okay, well, this is his name, all right? What sport do you know, we can put him to a room, but we really can't help them find anybody, and I think that's what we're trying to do, is not only find them, but make sure that it's more easy to update on an annual basis.
Well, I suggest that because you know, I travel quite a bit, and I'm starting to see more and more historical societies have annual wine and cheese type events, to where they walk through, they do private donations. It's open to the public, not to say for charges, for example, but just allow people, because honestly, I mean, I live right over here on 37th Street, and so, you know, I come here every month. You don't hear a lot of people talking about our amateur sports all the
We
time.
probably get 4 a month, 4 or 5 people a month that come in. Some will drop some information off that we can give to the hall, to the individual groups. Some will just, they'll ask if we can help them find something, so we'll take them to this certain room and assist where we can. Again, we don't know exactly where everything is and it's kept and all that kind of stuff, so it's a little tough, but I think we just had a gentleman from Canton come over the other day during the senior game, so he was all excited. He walked through every single room and was talking, and it gets used.
That may be something to consider with your marketing promotions person, is you know, look at doing something quarterly or biannually.
We talked, and RJ said that they have publications that go out fairly regularly with each of their groups. They'd be happy to share some of our programs if we'd be willing to put something in our program about what they're doing. I think you're right, that's exactly the type of partnerships we need to keep developing.
And a lot of those groups are apprehensive to do anything here because they don't know what the future looks like. So I think if we firm up the foundation here and show some investment, you'd be surprised on the people that want to get on board. And the other item that goes with this, to where I know with them tearing down the press box at Benson Field, at Kurt and myself, I'll reach out to Dave Baker again, because in the past they've helped us with old furniture. Well, it's old to them. To us, it's like a brand new piece. So I'll reach out to the Hall of Fame folks again to see if there's anything that we can use, possibly desk, whatnot, to where they've repurposed a lot of items off of that facility that they've tore down. At least $50,000 to $60,000 in fencing that we've repurposed and we've reinstalled. So they've been a great partner with that. But I'll reach out to them again because I know the NFL changed all their offices in New York, and they had a warehouse full of furniture that the Hall of Fame went up and brought back and donated some things to the schools and stuff. So just a little sidebar to that. So. All right, anything else in facilities? All right, let's move on to program.
Fall and winter program offerings, you do have a handout of kind of a laundry list of things that we're looking at providing for this year. A lot of it does go in regards to facilities with the volleyball league, the basketball leagues. Flag football is another growing one that we're partnering with Plain Local and Green, so they will be playing not just our own league, but also outside of the community. The new one we're looking at is the traveling fast pitch girls softball to put more use out at the Willing Fields. I think that's going to be a popular one. If we can get that one off the ground, we'll start probably at the 10-year-old age group. Then we have our adult sports, the open gym concept. I think we need to go get it a little more firmed up, but to open just offer more of an open gym style where people can either buy tickets or times that would go Monday through Friday at certain facilities. Want to be 18 and over, want to be 30 and under, want to be 45 and over, whatever they would be. Some would be volleyball, some would be basketball, but this would still allow for individuals to who don't know anybody else, who don't know how to get in touch with anybody to come and play basketball. Would allow them to join a group to play evening basketball. We have our special events down there. The wood softball bat tournament is one that I'm really hopeful that we can get. I think we're going to get about 10 to 12 teams, and I'm hoping this kind of morphs back into the old fumble ball style that we had talked about previously. The trunk or treat event, which was very popular last year, we'll partner again with the schools to offer that. And we do have some some enrichment programming, dog training, so on and so forth. So that's just kind of a rundown. If you have any questions about what was being offered, I think in my director's report, based off of this sheet from last year's program guide, which was our very first program guide, is an increase of about 31 or 39% of program offerings that we are directly responsible for.
The one thing I would suggest looking into is lacrosse. The reason why a number of Federal League schools are looking into it, my
Yes.
boys live in Avon Lake, so no matter where you go anymore, I know it's huge, over in the eastern United States.
It is. And I've heard a rumor that the majority of the rentals already up at the village have been lacrosse tournaments already. That's just a rumor, but I don't know of that for sure.
All the 2 new fields that are built.
Yeah, I've heard that they've already been used for more of lacrosse than football at this point.
From what I was told today too, that I think they're going to redo the track with a brand new track, and they're going to turf the inside of Don Scott and call that the championship fields. So where when they have their youth tournaments, they'll be out on the other fields, and then that's like the showcase field. And I hear some rumblings.
They're going to
that-
keep the track?
Yeah, they're going
That's
to put a
I
brand
thought
new
the
track.
original drawings they were getting rid of.
Yeah, well, they wanted to put 10 fields there, but, we moved the baseball field with no plan to replace it that we're working on. But to remove that track, that's our high school. We got to have that in place. But I hear some odds and ends to where they might put a bubble over it, so they have indoor track. So, not sure, but that's, it's on the internet, so it has to be true. So.
Well, I've heard from the track coach over Malone, if we had an indoor facility, indoor track meet that was a pure 400, I don't know that there's any other indoor 400-yard track ever available. So that would be huge.
But I know if they would have added an indoor track up to the indoor facility that is already on the docket, it would have added an exuberant amount of money to that facility. So, but that would be really cool if they could put the bubble over it and have indoor track. So that would just add another piece to their programming and selling tournaments and stuff in January and February. Just make sure as we run our programs. I read a story out in the newspaper when I was on the road this week about background checks and coaches. Just make sure that everybody that is touching a kid from our standpoint, coach-wise or volunteer, has a background check and it's on file at any time so people can have access to it. So,
Bad choice of words.
What's that?
Bad choice of words.
Anybody that's involved that has direct contact with
Touch.
Direct
our,
contact.
with our
Background
direct
checks.
contact with our kids.
Touch the
That's on
background
a
check.
background check, yes.
You guys need to clean it up. Anyway, but thank you. Any questions from anybody concerning the program?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
A group of us have been working diligently, and I've talked to you
Mhm.
about it. The Soul Brother Tournament
Yes.
coming to Canton. For years, it was held in Mansfield. For the last 2 years, it's been absent. I think the leaders of the group died, so they haven't had it there. And we figured in 2 years, nobody has picked it up. We think that Canton will benefit from this Soul Brother Tournament. It's an internationally recognized group, and usually they have the 4th of July. We don't have to have the 4th of July here,
Right.
you know, but we have been working diligently. Some people wanted to push for it for this year, but I'm like, we need to plan this and do it right.
How many, yeah, and you and I have talked about this, I just need some contact information and how we would be able to reach to those teams who participated in multiple years. How do we reach that information? How do we get that information to them that we would like to host it? Is this a private entity that would just rent our fields, or would we be the runners of the
That's,
facility?
I was looking at how the recreation in the park, I think it would be beneficial if you all did it,
Mhm.
okay?
And that's fine, but I would want to do it with the blessing of whoever ran it before. I don't want to
They're
just say,
dead.
hey, I understand it, there's got to be somebody that, some success.
I would suggest you reach out to the city of Mansfield to see if there's any historical data.
And I've looked it up online, and I've placed a phone call, but again, I haven't received anything. So we'll, I mean, I'll
We
continue.
had some teams from here that
Okay.
played. As a matter of fact, there's about 3 or 4 teams here
Yeah,
that used to play in that tournament.
I will look into it again, and I'll update you through email.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect. All right. And old business. Capital improvements.
Capital improvements, so you have a spreadsheet of some of the items we have talked about. I did hand out some more with that. I have a lot of information here that I can have supplemental, but I didn't want to have a huge packet of information. So the majority of the original quotes, everything's listed in the spreadsheet. If you need information, background information, or anything like that, I do have it here.
I put it in an easier read.
Oh, you didn't like my small font?
I'm old, I can't read that. 3. And,
I'm not as old as you.
no. Hear you.
Thank you.
And I'm older than most of them.
Yeah, but you look good.
Thank you.
Yeah. There you go, and there's some, pass that along back. Did that so everybody can have it easier to read. So what we did was at our last meeting, we talked about some of the things that we can do. Is we looked at our surplus, and so we had a little breakout session of some of the things that we wanted to discuss moving forward. And so I took a lot, well, pretty much a lot of what Greg had worked up, I put it into an easier read to where, you know, we can have discussions about these things and we can deem what's worthy. So you can look down through of all the items that we talked about.
There's one missing.
Yeah,
What's that?
there's one missing.
What's that?
Skateboard. I don't see that on here.
Well, this is just our first lesson,
Okay.
so.
There's
a
2
lot of-
missing.
I have your quote.
And you know, I was looking at the skateboard tracks, and I remember back when they built those, I think that whoever built them, the city or whoever, they built them with the idea that it was a trend or a fad and it was going to go away. We have a lot of kids that do this, well, grown folks too. And we need to make sure that they're safe in doing this. and the tracks are deteriorated, and they're embarrassing, really.
Which ones are you referencing? I know of two, the one down off of Shore and then the one over.
That
on
one's
Lime.
embarrassing, really.
They said they had to be designed and estimated.
And they look like
We can
people
talk
just
about
said,
it.
okay, we'll give them something to keep them quiet.
Those were above ramps, or not above ground, they were modular units that were placed there, and I don't know the history of those, but they have shown their wear and tear. I believe Derek was working last year possibly on a complete concrete bowl and ramp structure. There are multiple opportunities that we may have for that kind of facility. We do need to find a park property that it fits the surrounding amenities. That is for skateboarding, and is very visual, so we can the activity can be seen and not hidden. But yes, I agree. I think that is another important
They
aspect.
can bring money to the community.
If I can add to that, we did pursue that pretty heavily
Yeah, I
at the
remember.
train station. The surrounding neighborhood was not in favor of that, and in addition to them not wanting that particular location, the grant that we were pursuing also did not come through. I think, unfortunately, in part due to the fact the neighborhood was opposed to the concept. So we did kind of have to go back to the drawing board, and a lot of those funds we've moved forward and trying to put towards a master plan, because until we have that matching grant, $150,000 project to do it with the concrete, do it the right way.
Well, why can't we do it because that's so deteriorated, that thing needs to be towed down.
That,
Down
that-
the shore.
That is an old tennis court that could be
It's
repurposed.
houses.
that's our plan B, but I know that's, again, the funding would, it's, in my opinion, it's gonna need a grant, even if we were to use supplemental funds from our funds or the rec department to make it happen in the complete fashion that you're speaking of.
I think the activity that I'm interested in, I think the name doesn't give it the respect it needs, but we've got to be looking into pickleball. It is growing.
I just heard something.
Go to Mentor and see what's going on up there. Florida is packed. They get tournaments of 1,200, 1,300 people. It's not a joke. It's really a great
I think I sent
activity.
those videos to the board about the one in Mentor, and then Toledo has a huge following
What
as
is
well. It's a court game similar to tennis, but it's on a smaller court and use more of the plastic ball.
You play with a paddle and a whistle ball.
It's a pretty fast-moving sport. It's for a lot of the individuals who used to play tennis are picking it up as a singles and a doubles game.
No,
Older
what about
people,
this?
it's a good activity for older people. The name pickleball makes it sound like a joke,
Well,
and
they
it's
were
really
talking
not.
about
It's
that.
going on. We're playing it at the Hall of Fame Fitness. It's being played everywhere.
Yeah.
It's very.
And there's another thing they got coming out.
I don't want it to be overlooked.
The golf discus, the disc.
Disc golf, we do have a disc golf course in the city. It is up at Arboretum Park. So that's already existing.
There's one in Milan also.
Well,
Right.
the-
The one at Arboretum Park is used tremendously.
The other one too was when Sowers was, I think it was previously Sowers, in the Stern Center, they started pouring pads, but it was never finished.
We actually have the baskets we're working with at Rafus at the schools right now to try to get those to them to finish that project. So,
All we need to do is, I think we have the map
Mhm.
of where those
Well, they even
locations
started,
are. We just need to put it
Mr. Horsberger, maintenance director, I mean, he started pouring, what, 4 or 5 pads?
Yeah, the pads
They're all
are ready.
ready.
It's just a matter of getting them that equipment and how they want to install it at the school.
And that could be a fall project.
And if it's something later on that your commission involved with, I think you got to sit down with the old director here, Bill Johnson, who's very involved with it down in Florida.
I talked to him,
Okay.
Greg and I both did, about all of the successes.
Yeah, it's really not a joke. I think it's something that you got to take a doggone good look at. And him as a past director, I always respected what he was doing in the program, so.
So what was
So
the
do we
other?
want to go down list by list and kind of talk a little bit about each one?
Yes.
Okay. So the two at the top, the playground fall protection is something we do annually anyways, so that's just kind of on the list as a cost. The stadium park tennis courts, the resurfacing, There is two options on that. It looks like there's two, looks like when JR put together.
broke
it
them
had
out.
two of them.
Yeah.
So we can either recondition it for the 27,000, or we can resurface for 120.
Now, the resurfacing, does that include restriping and whatnot?
Yes,
Okay.
that's a complete
So it's a
redo.
complete redo.
And
Okay.
that's the same way with the Harvard tennis courts. We could fix the cracks and smooth everything out and repaint whatever we fix, or we can just do the complete process of resurfacing the entire.
What is the
courts.
lifespan of the
I knew you were going to ask that.
Yeah,
I would have to go back through the quote.
Well, let me ask the second part of that question. What is the lifespan of the reconstructions versus the resurfacing?
Not as long.
Not as long, and it's
All
a
right.
waste of money.
All right,
If
now,
they're
and-
cracked and things
as
like
far as
that.
the resurface,
paint
how long is it
It's just a
guaranteed?
Band-Aid.
It's
Is
a
there a
total
guarantee?
waste of money.
It's a couple of years. I mean, it's a longer period of time that would take place.
Because I mean, a return on investment, I mean, ultimately you have, yes, if we resurface them, I think the return on investment is greater, but I'm more worried about the warranties. I mean, is it 1 year, 2 years?
Oh, I'd have to check their quote again, and unfortunately, that's in my tennis folder sitting on my desk because I was working on tennis stuff today. But yes, that is,
I'm totally against the reconditioning of them, totally.
yeah. The next one, we took care of the bike share. Yeah, looks like we have, I'll go off a year list, I
Speaking of the
apologize.
bike share, is there some way we can PR that? Because I'm running into a lot of people that don't know it exists.
I can speak to that a little bit. The library, when we spoke first, they did have a big kickoff at the first Friday before that, and they're trying to they got a donation from actually Anheuser-Busch for some helmets and some other bike equipment to give out. We have talked, and I'm not sure where that process stands, of them doing a sign-up day at each one of the hubs. So at the Edward Field Coleman Center, the library, the Garden Center, to have a setup day that will they promote to get people to come sign up for the program for free, of course, and kind of explain to them how the program works. I'm not sure where they are on that process because they are kind of the keepers of the program, but I know that's something specifically they talked about to try to drive membership.
Okay.
The next one on the list looks like it is Weiss Park lights and Stern Center lights.
Did you have anything done with that?
I did not call Musco or any of the lighting companies to take a look at that because I didn't know
I can give Hilshire Clark a call.
how far we were going to go into that process.
Right.
So you did put $50,000 as an estimate.
Just estimated. I mean, because what I want to do is go through this, have discussion, and then we can start piecemealing what we think is important. But I'll get a hold of Hilshire Clark to see if they can go down.
Well, I would like to, I mean, when we talk about the Weiss Park lights, would it be more appropriate to fix up the stadium lights down at Stadium Park and have those premier ball fields down there for the youth, as opposed to new lights up at Weiss?
We already approved funding earlier in the year to fix those lights at Stadium, correct?
Yeah, it was just, it turned out to be just.
Right, Band-Aid.
Well, here's the other thing.
But the whole thing needs to, yes, it's a Band-Aid.
But I think when you look at the utilization, Weiss Park's fields are used far greater than the stadium is now that fumble ball no longer exists.
Correct, but we could, with the opportunity of, flag football programs down there and some other things that we're doing underneath the
We're
lights.
talking about night soccer.
We could do, I mean, with those lit athletic fields, those would be all available to us. If we were just lighting strictly a baseball field, it would just be for baseball. That was kind of my thought process. If it's more of an athletic field lighting, we could do that. I mean, the lights currently work well down at that stadium, but
But they're,
it
what,
is
50 years old?
it's terrifying to turn them on, I'm not gonna lie.
Where is Stadium Park?
Right off the highway.
But you talk
On the
about
other side of
Stadium
the Hall
Park,
of Fame.
I met with the Hall of Fame,
Where you go
and
25th Street by the Hall of
I
Fame
shared with
Center.
them some of the things that we're thinking of, and they conveyed to me that they have no immediate plans to tear anything out down that way
There's
now,
two of us along
5 to
the
10
field.
years out maybe,
Okay,
but nothing in the
that's
immediate future.
That's called
That if we
Stadium
do
Park.
anything to the tennis courts and the shuffleboard and all
Is
that
there anything out where?
in stadium,
Who would tear it out?
if the Hall of Fame doesn't have any immediate plans to do anything, because I don't want to spend any, you know, any revenue here on something that 2 years down the line, they're gonna come in with a backhoe and dig it out and put something else on it.
Are they talking about doing that now?
But I reached out to them just as a heads up, just to make sure that, you know, if we clean up some of our infrastructure, we're not wasting our
Are
money.
they talking about doing that now?
No, but I.
Is it on the
initiated
drawing board?
No, not that I've seen.
Okay.
But I reached out to them just to make sure that we weren't gonna waste our money on something that they had a vision for, so.
Right.
Well,
Okay, while
they
we're
have a
talking about
vision
these
for it, and
improvements.
to do it, they have to pay us.
City.
While we're talking about these improvements, what monies do we really have available? What do we have? What are we gonna get in receipts? What do we have in expenditures to the end of the year? What do we have to
Well, right
spend?
now, we're looking around 800,000.
Yeah.
In anything budgeted for 2016, we can't count, we have to stay true to what we have on the grid. And that money is not even in play, you know, until December 31st comes and goes.
We have receipts
You know.
coming in yet for this year,
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
we're still
How
operating.
much do we have coming in on top of our 800,000? And then what do we have going out in expenditure?
Well, the 2016 budget
It was already set.
is set, and those monies will probably equal our expenditures.
Okay, so
So we're looking
basically
at a
we have
base, a
this
baseline number
surplus
of
of
around
800,000.
800,000.
Yeah, the amount we were talking
Okay.
about is the amount that's in
Yes.
surplus.
Right, around that. And we've already allocated 38,000 for the Stadium Park Restroom Grant that we
Right.
agreed to share on, and that's encumbered in here. So,
One item that was brought up at the last meeting that isn't on this list, and the reason why a lot of these people are here, is the consideration of acquiring the Jewish Community Center adjacent to Weiss Park. And I don't know how seriously you consider that as an option for spending our surplus. But when you consider that $900,000 was distributed to the Stern Center, and $900,000 from the current park levy, the one that expires in December. $900,000 got allocated to maintain and operate the Peel Coleman Center. I think it's a very valid consideration to use that, or at least consider using that money to purchase the Jewish Community Center, demolish it, and use it for ball fields. I think there's going to be a tremendous crush on field space in the summer. I met with people from the Hall of Fame, and they said that they're going to have put 10,000 people through the 3 fields at Hall of Fame Village that are currently available this summer. Extrapolating that out to next year when 8 fields are available, is that the number of fields? I'm guessing that's probably going to be
once they complete it, it'll be 10.
25,000 kids a summer through those fields. I was very encouraged to hear Sam say we can't continue to do things the way we've always done things. We need vision. We need forward thinking. I don't think that a batting cage at Weiss Park, as great as that would be, I like it, is as forward thinking or as visionary as the potential of transforming a dinosaur that is a community eyesore into something that can be used by current residents, guests, people who are in town for the tournaments can use that facility for practice, and it's convenient off the highway, and it's 5 minutes from Hall of Fame Village. I think it'd be foolish not to consider purchasing that piece of property. I've spoken with Greg Luntz. I invited him here to talk about the current situation with that facility. And Greg, if you want to, if you have a minute to talk about it.
Hi, everybody. How are y'all doing? I'm Greg Luntz. I'm an agent with NAI Spring, and I represent the owners of the property. And I came to, at Don's request, to show up and maybe make a few statements, then answer any questions you might have about the situation there. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot I can say because it's confidential, but I can't say that there is a purchase option held by a local entity right now that has the right to take a few more, well, I can't say exactly how long, but a little while longer to check out the potential use of that property, and they have that option. I can't disclose price, I can't disclose timing, it's just confidential until, of
Greg,
course,
can
it's
you
listed.
describe the property? to
Oh,
us?
sure, oh, I'm sorry. 14 acres, of which approximately 4 have the building on it. Okay, the building hasn't been used in quite some time, and some people are looking at it to reuse it, but that would take quite a bit of money to get it back up to speed. Relatively flat, a slight grade going east on the baseball fields. Of course, I think you probably all know, talked to Malone, and had a deal, but it just the timing wasn't right for them, and they purchased the Temple Israel, which is just south of the Jewish Center property. They do own it, and as far as I know, they're not really doing that much with it right now. But it is a friendly owner, I guess I'll say, right? So
Very friendly.
yeah, and they're directly west of the property, and then of course Route 62 cuts the property off to the north, and there's a strip of land there that the state has, as you would with any highway there.
Greg, do you have any idea how much it would cost to demolish the building?
I do. I've had some numbers looked at over the last few years, because this has been a listing that's lasted a while. And I've seen everything from approximately $250,000 to $350,000. There is asbestos in the building. It's not rampant. It can be remediated, but that would be the wild card cost. Some people think, some quotes have been estimated to be $300,000 to $350,000 with that remediation complete. Other quotes have been around $200,000 to maybe even south of $200,000 for if that wasn't the case.
I have another question for you. Without going into the confidentiality side, there are 4 fields that are currently there now.
Right, 4 baseball fields.
I get off there now. I've seen a couple of groups over the last couple of months try to get them going. They haven't been used. Is that property up for conversation about about dividing it to sell just the back and eliminating the tennis courts and creating that area with new baseball fields or multi-purpose fields?
Your question is it subject to sub-sale? Or, yeah.
Correct.
We've had a couple of people come to us for that. I am bound to do what the owner requests, and the owner would like to sell the property all as one. The current option, I can say, is for all of it. So would they be willing to maybe do a subdivision later? Possibly, if this doesn't work out, the current deal.
Now, do
I
you
don't know
have
if
an
that helped you at all, but
Oh, no, that's okay. Do you have an estimate, and I'm not quoting you, but do you have an estimate on what it would cost with the asbestos issue, to remove it?
Yeah, about.
Oh, no, that was the building. I'm asking now, so that cost is with the...
Yeah, and they are estimates. You'd have to go out and get new ones, you know how that works. But yeah, that was with asbestos, and I think you're videoing, I just appreciate it if you can.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but that's because it's an estimate, and
Okay.
there have been a couple companies through, and they vary pretty much.
Yeah.
I spoke with Representative Scheuring, and there are state funds available, low-interest loans, 10-year low-interest loans that we can take out for remediation and demolition. So it wouldn't be an upfront cost of $300,000. It would be financed over 10 years. Assuming that the levy passes in 5 years, I think it's a safe bet.
Now, what are your thoughts on your vision of fields? I mean, give me an idea of the overall field.
I would say flat surface fields to be used for lacrosse, rugby, soccer, football, any flat surface field. With the exception of baseball, because you have infields, backstops, and all the other stuff.
Well, honestly, those fields honestly haven't been used in
No, it's
7,
grass.
8, 9
It's
years.
Right.
basically grass. It's,
It would take grading.
yeah.
And I did have a conversation with the Canton Law Department in regards to the trucks and mowers and anything that has value that we may purchase through a capital improvement. At the conclusion or the end of the Canton Joint Recreation Board, the Ohio Revised Code states that all assets would have to be then
Split
in half, or
Yes.
divided between the two entities unless an agreement was made or so on and so forth. I don't know if a purchase of a large property
It's the
would
same.
be into that.
Right.
It's the same.
But we could certainly have the law department look into transferring that title over to the CCIC. That happens all the time.
I'm just throwing it out there
I'm-
for conversation.
I don't want the recreation department in the business of owning property. I think
What we
we're
want,
throwing a big,
once this purchase is made and the merger is complete, it'll be the cities,
well,
and it'll be a park.
I think that's something that
But what it
part
is
should be
using,
dealing with.
what it's doing is using taxpayer funds to support taxpayer activities.
Yeah, well.
And that's what it was intended for.
Mr. Luntz, do
Yes,
you
sir.
have an estimate on the recycle value of that building? On all the materials that? went into
None
the
whatsoever.
construction?
I do come from a scrap background, I will say,
Okay.
but it's metals. And
That's good to know.
it's bricks and, mortar. There isn't a lot of metals. There will be copper.
Because I see
No
that
one's
with
gotten
our
that yet.
hospitals now. Yeah, I see that with hospitals now, and a lot of the older hospitals are being destroyed. A lot of companies are buying them strictly for scrap value.
Yes, well, and scrap value is low
Yeah.
at this point. I'm more, my expertise is more in the metal value. If there are other materials in the building that are useful, I'm not sure what they do. Some people recycle the bricks if they're handled properly, and wooden roof trusses if they're the big old wood kind. But I don't know that the center would have a whole lot of that. It will have copper wire, because it's got quite an HVAC system in there. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but that's the current situation. And call me anytime, and I'll be happy to help in any way.
Thanks, Greg.
Sure.
I also invited Edmund Mack, if I spoke with, God, who's our city councilman?
Muriel.
John Merrill, yeah, and he couldn't make it, but Edmund Mack could. If you want to say anything,
Sure, yeah, and thank you, President Rinaldi. Member Peterson brought up the issue of the Jewish Center to me, being one of the council persons, along with Member Muriel, for the northern part of the city. And as I'm sure people in this room may know, that was a big part of, the Jewish Center was a big part of the fabric in northern Canton for many years. Member Muriel actually played basketball when he was there growing up, and when it closed, we certainly lost something that was really valuable to us. One thing that has been a challenge for myself as the council person for the area of the city that goes north of 38th Street is there are limited opportunities to make investments in parks and in recreation. It may even be more limited, with the exception of the Arboretum Park. And I know Director Gordon and I have really had a challenge making an investment. It's important for us because all the residents in our city, at least from my view, are funding our levies, and we want to show them that we care about this investment. When Member Peterson brought up the potential of, or the idea that your board may have available funds to make an investment in that property, certainly my initial reaction, it was very, very positive. My ward probably has, of all the wards in the city of Canton, more members of the temple than any other part of the city. And I know that this is something very, very important. I've spoken with people in this room about this very issue. What I can say is whether this would make sense for the city of Canton's perspective, we don't know. But we think it could be something, among other things that this board's looking at, worth evaluating. I spoke with Mayor Burnaby about this issue today, spoke with Deputy Director Fonda Williams about it late last night. Something that would be as big as this, because we would have obviously a huge role in whatever happens. this would have to fit in with what our objectives are for the city of Canton, with our comprehensive plan, and what we're trying to do to manage the assets that we have and the taxpayer dollars that we have. I know the same is true for Director Gordon. Whether this sort of transaction would make sense, whether the dollars could make sense, I don't know. But I know that the administration, certainly from City Council's perspective, we're absolutely willing to explore it further and see if it could make sense. If it doesn't, then at least we took a look at it. But I think that it is an important asset as far as at least the northern part of the city goes. And if this isn't the project that would make sense, any of the projects that this board is considering, I can tell you that we would love to be a part of your conversations and a part of your strategic planning as you make these capital expenditures, because we are absolutely in this all together. And so I know Deputy Mayor Williams and Mayor Burnaby feel the same way. We're happy to look at anything together, including the Jewish Center, and appreciate this board's time.
Thank you, sir.
And there are a lot of neighbors too.
I'd just like to make a comment. Joe Grusina, I'm a lifetime resident of Canton, live in that area, and as was pointed out, a valuable asset has gone to waste over the last 7-8 years, and an opportunity because it is public use grounds and what the possibilities might be when you have the neighborhoods of Market Heights, Colonial Heights, Vassar, and Ridgewood all having access to this facility in the past, and while there's nothing there today, I think it would be very short-sighted for us not to take a look at the options. Don made a comment about and Greg made a comment about the demolition, and also the asbestos removal or removal that's there. I would say this, and my background is banking, and I've done a lot with organizations, actually a 501c6 over in Alliance, where we recently acquired some property for the benefit of the city. And then with that, we're able to obtain funds to clean an industrial site, and it was all paid. It was $650,000 was paid by the state of Ohio. There are funds that are allocated, and Greg probably knows better than I, on some of those opportunities. But if there is an end use for the property, if the end use is a park, we could very well qualify for that. So I would not think too much about possibly what the number is or what it could be relative to demolition, purchase, and so forth. But I think it is an opportunity to take a look, as Don said, looking forward and see what we could possibly do. Because this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If it goes away, if another, I'll say, nursing home gets built there, we'll never have that chance again. So I know that, speaking for a number of neighbors that live by me, very excited about possible opportunity.
And I know Mr. Lutz is, Lutz or Lutz?
Lutz.
Lutz is doing. And I know you probably can't say, but I mean, is there an estimated price on the building right now or the property?
It's listed for $2 million. Originally, it was listed for like $4 million, but that was before '08, when things took a little bit of a turn there. And that's the current list price.
Are we allowed to ask who the controlling entity is that controls the property?
No.
We're not allowed to ask that.
Well, you can ask.
I can ask.
I think it's worth noting that when Greg says it's a friendly seller, I think he means that, and I think that they would work with our group, the Parks Commission, and also the city of Canton,
Yeah.
in order to find a way to make all parties happy.
Well, the issue right now is they have an option from someone in their hand. So, they're going to be interested in playing that out. And I can't say, I represent them. I think that's the right thing to do. Who knows if it will be exercised?
Mr. President, could I, another question?
Yes, sir.
When does their options, can you tell us when they exhaust themselves?
I cannot. The option, it's a confidential agreement until it ends, and then you can say, but you've got some time. That's about all. I'm sorry, I know I sound like that, but I gotta do that. That's just
No,
the way
I
the rules
understand.
are.
I understand. You should work for the CIA.
Oh, please, no.
Got somebody on the floor here.
I'm not speaking on behalf of the commissioners, but I know I have spoken with a few of them, and just a couple of thoughts. First of all, I grew up in that area, played basketball there as well, have very fond memories. But on the park side of things, I do have to look at numbers and talk through what our current plans and strategies are. I know down here we have King Park, and I know I have some thoughts about Crenshaw Park that Greg and I have talked about in terms of recreational value. We have tremendous needs within the master plan that we're trying to fund, that we have some funds set aside for on the park side. We also have an overabundance of property in a lot of cases that we aren't utilizing to its max. I think of large open spaces such as Covered Bridge on the north side of town, Crenshaw Park, the area behind the Stern Center, if that's something that we would end up in our hands, that we struggle to maintain kind of as it is. We also do have the 2 community centers, which Don pointed out, we have spent a tremendous amount of money there, but very little, if any of it, has been capital improvements. So I would be remiss if I didn't say that I think operationally we're going to be stretched in the next 5 years just to maintain and try to bring those 2 buildings up to speed. Yet another large building, it's something we have to think heavily about in terms of operations. We also, just looking at this list, I know that's scratching the surface on the needs that we have across the entire park district, that doing this purchase would wipe out pretty much all of those funds and then some. So, and the last piece of this is looking at our future budget for the next 5 years. It's extremely tight already, and that is, we've looked at the carryover that you have, that we had accounted for a portion of your carryover, a portion of our carryover, hopefully some of the Stern Center carryover, to give us a nice starting point. So if we are at a deficit each year, we can get through the 5 years until hopefully we've balanced out and our revenues have turned around and we've been able to find some efficiencies. So I do not mean to be the Grim Reaper on this, because I think everyone here in the long term would love to have a 3rd community center in the northern end of town, and I think that property has tremendous potential value, but I just think all those factors need to be brought up and considered if we make this decision.
If I might speak again.
Yes, sir.
Well, I don't think we're saying that we want it to be a community center. I think we are saying a park.
Sure.
And I think there is also the ability to sell it back possibly to the city, if that would become the situation. I think one of the things when I look at the budget, and I see over $250,000 going towards tennis courts, at the same time, so we're talking about pickleball being possibly a better product or service we're going to offer. I don't think there's the thought that all $700,000 necessarily go through this project. But because there is somewhat of a, I won't say windfall, but dollars that are available right now, if nothing else, if they are not all appropriate and something kept back relative to this project, I think it's probably a sensible thing to do. In addition to that, I don't know what you can escrow and how you would do it. I'm not familiar with the board enough to be able to say that, how your budgetary situation is. But some of the things that you do see here would be, even for your own benefit, since you're going to be tight over the next 5 years, these might be better spent some other place. So, what?
I see this as a revenue opportunity too, because we're going to be able to rent those fields to guests from out of town who just want to practice an hour before their game, so that they're warm when they get down to the field. Because I don't know how many fields are going to be utilized at a time, or if they're going to be, if they're going to be given an opportunity to warm up prior to. I just think it's a forward-thinking, progressive vision to tie into what we know is happening at the Hall of Fame.
And we can talk in regards to municipal bonds or something of that nature to be able to finance a large-scale purchase of that nature, so that we're not utilizing all the carryover for that.
Well, I think all options need to be considered, including utilizing the carryover for that project.
Right, but maybe not all.
Right now, I feel very financially irresponsible of passing on an albatross to you guys without you having any specifics. He can't give you really any specifics. I don't feel comfortable in allocating that money and then throwing it in your lap. We have a say-so on what we want to do with this. But down the road, I don't feel comfortable in giving you guys that burden if it's something we can't financially handle right now. That's what I feel.
And just for the record, these are just breakout numbers. These aren't hard. This is just conversation starters. So The tennis courts, we were just looking to see, so,
I understand.
If the
Yeah.
mayor's interested
I
in
don't
down the
think that's
road,
a process.
no, but it was
go
just,
get it and turn it
just
over to
what
the
we're
right.
doing now, having a great conversation, which I think is healthy.
Right.
But that's what, these numbers are just conversation starters. And I know I spoke to the law department at length, and they expressed to me that the city and the rec board is not in business to purchase property. That was the first thing that they told me. And when I see $800,000, and I look at some of these things on here, when you have an $800,000 carryover, it means through the years, you haven't spent the money how you should. And there's some infrastructure that has been slighted to where that's the first thing that jumps out at me. And I had somebody remind me today that we're tearing ball fields out. When we talked about the Joy Center property, they said, well, why would you tear something down and spend money on something that you're going to build fields and you're tearing fields down now? You're taking fences down and you're turning them into green space and things like that, which I guess is a pretty valid point when we're talking about adding fields. I can see the conversation on both sides, but the law department had a pretty firm talk with me that at the end of it, the school district is going to have ownership of some of this. It's 50-50. Anything that's left has to be divided.
Well, and that was my topic on the.
Right.
Is because you could dedicate that in the event that the building is torn down, you can still dedicate that portion of the fields to the Jewish Community
Right.
Center.
We could still dedicate it before we dissolve, if I'm not mistaken, and everybody on this board knows what the $800,000 carryover was for, because we all voted for the resolution to have a holdback funds, so that if our levy ever failed, we'd have 6 months operating. So it's a little disingenuous to say that the funds weren't utilized properly, because this board voted on it. We all know what the funds
My
are
intent
used.
of my comments weren't for that, but it took a while to carry over $800,000.
Sure.
That just wasn't a year or two.
No,
But my
it was,
point
it
is-
was intentional.
Coming from my opinion, we need to make sure that our infrastructure is solid when we hand it off. And if we hand off something that's not going to be financially stable, we're doing a disservice. I mean, we all have
To
our
them.
Well,
Right.
it's an asset that we can actually sell if we want to partner with Malone in the future.
Right.
Let the
So-
city do that.
Well, it's the city's property, because we're going to transfer it over to the city when we dissolve. So the city has control of it anyhow.
So we're
So
giving,
there-
we're
so
giving
the-
him this
so you're-
albatross
No,
that
it's a profit
he's already
center.
concerned about budgetary.
We can have the conversation.
Yeah.
And
Well,
and I understand where you stand.
And the question I have is can we look into, the potential of the field behind it rather than the risk of the building? That way we could still have access to 10 acres versus a building.
It's up to Greg.
Yeah.
Well, not me.
Yeah.
The
No,
owner.
no,
Well,
right,
Yeah,
right.
No,
now-
what
right
I'm
now,
saying
it's
is
not.
that would be my suggestion, because right now, the building that we're talking about is a huge risk. The land is
The
not.
building's gonna go away.
Well, the building.
building's
No, I
gonna go.
understand that, but that's a cost to us, whether it's
Yes.
loaned or whether it's granted. That's still a risk that, so we have 6 months to figure that out.
Right.
That's not something that's, not saying it's impossible, but that's something where we really have to take a look at here in all the wards on what we need. But me, as an outsider, I'm
I think that's a
worried.
great idea. Let's identify where the money's been spent, what wards have received the funds. And then we can start to have a thoughtful,
'Cause I'll be honest with
a
you,
thoughtful dialogue
I've
on
been here
where the
3
money's
years.
been spent.
I've been here 3 years, and honestly, it's the
That's Park
first time we've
Sandra.
had this conversation
Right.
in 3 years.
We've had that published for our ward distribution, so we
Pretty
can provide that.
transparent. There's no secrets with that.
Yeah,
That's what
Is
the
there somewhere
budget's for.
online that you?
Yeah, we
is online?
we gave it to the repository, I believe they published it a year or two ago.
Okay.
If not, and I think it was in our.
We can make
We
that
can give it to everybody, yeah. I'm not sure if they published the chart, but I think they did a breakdown of each ward.
but my whole point of this is, when we're looking at a park and recreation process, yes, the building is a heritage, it's a legacy, but at the same time, it's a risk when we're looking at purchasing the building over the land, because you have huge opportunity with land that's already there, without having to worry about the building.
What would David Baker say?
I don't know him personally, other than he's the Hall of Fame president.
Well, my opinion is that you look for the vision, and if you have vision, you can see how you're going to use that asset.
Well, my vision is clear. There's 10 acres not being used and it hasn't been used for 8 years.
There's 14 that can be used.
Yeah, the 4 is where the building sits.
But that's gonna go away, and it can be graded, and it can be
No,
fantastic.
I understand.
Yep, that's the vision.
Mr. President, may I ask a question? When do you set your budgets and when are these finalized?
Well, this is just, that's not so much a budget, that is just,
But it's a capital expenditure
it's just
budget.
a list that we've prepared
It was a wish
from a
list.
breakout
This
session.
is only about 30 days old. This is just something.
I know, but when do you make the decision?
Uh,
when
we-
I-
Our budgetary process is usually done,
Yeah,
November,
October,
yeah.
November, December.
Okay.
But with us
but we won't be doing the other one.
Yeah, we,
moving, moving into the twilight,
Right.
it'll fall on Director
Right.
Gordon in the park.
Budget
commission
falls there.
Moving forward. I mean, they will take a lot of our numbers now, and they'll have a master
Right.
combined budget.
So you don't have to make that decision when you hand it, before you hand it over where the dollars go? You're not, your plan is just to
We don't have to,
earmark?
we don't,
No, the issue that we face is the legalities behind the money that's here. Is how does it change hands? So what we're trying to identify are the needs of the community.
Joe, to answer your question, if we have money in the bank, we can't dissolve unless we split
Right.
any asset out 50% to the schools and 50% to the city. And then we're dissolved.
Okay.
So it's more of a legality issue than it is a budget.
But if we have $100 in the bank and we choose to carry on the joint rec, my understanding is that we can carry that entity as an entity forward for as long as we want, as long as the schools and the city support a joint rec in that structure. I mean, is that safe to say?
Right, which I doubt that as we move forward and we dissolve, I'm not quite sure that either entity would
If
sign
we're dissolved,
on
we're
to
dissolved.
keep that,
Right, if we're dissolved.
the current entity open.
Right.
Right, I mean, that would be up to
Right.
the school board and the city.
And you guys, so.
Yep.
Yes.
If I could, thank you, Mr. President, I just want to make one final comment here because I've got to warm up for the Cavaliers game here.
Don't pull a muscle.
unless you're warming up for them.
I hope not.
Starting point guard for the Warriors.
We hope.
I came in here thinking that, you know what, I don't want to be lassoed with a building, but I didn't realize Don's idea was to get rid of the building, and, which I like. And I truly believe after listening to Joe and listening to some other members of the Ridgewood community who contacted me today, that it would be a plus for them. And I want to remind everyone too that, true, we have a lot of property in Canton that the parks control, but location is the key, and we don't really control 14 acres north of Ridgewood like that. And I think let's not. The bottom line here is after listening to Don, listening to Joe, listening to the people of Ridgewood, I'm going to keep an open mind on all this, but it's in your court right now, and it could be a moot point if Greg's potential buyer comes through.
That's always the case, right? That's
Right.
exactly right.
So that's, I'm 1/3 of the board, Don, as, take two
I'm
of us.
1/5.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why
I don't know, like.
we have this stuff, that's why we're having a conversation.
Right, right.
And,
If I could also just express some thoughts, is that, you know, I hear everything. We're gonna be saddled with the budget if it's an albatross, but what I don't know is, I hear a vision, that's great. I don't hear any specifics, and what I would do is put together a more specific, call it a business plan, to say, how would we use it? What's the cost of an acquisition? What's the cost of the development? What's the potential revenue? So you step back and you say, is it an albatross? Maybe. Is it a potential win as far as neutral revenue neutral? I'd suggest there's not enough specifics. There's a lot of good opinions around as to whether or not it should be a ball field, 4 acres that we don't even purchase. But I'd like to see a more specific game plan going forward, rather than just say yes or no, one way or the other. It's kind of your point of making an open mind. It's a good vision. I like it. I think that whole area up there, as a nice complex that could support, I'll call it lower cost maintenance type fields as opposed to building and structures around it, has a potential to be a plus for that side of the city and its proximity to Malone and to the Hall of Fame. But I can't sit there and say, I think that's a great idea, unless I sat there and said, well, okay, is it 2 million? Is it $500,000? Is it, a loan that we got to pay off in 10 years for demolitions? Don't know. Is it going to cost us $100,000 a year to mow and maintain? I don't know. But unless I saw the whole thing pulled together as a plan, I wouldn't sit there as a city resident spending city dollars. I wouldn't say yes or no. And as a board member in your position, I don't know whether I'd say yes or no, let alone our board. What would we say, yes or no? But I think it would be prudent to at least put together a little bit more of a specific idea, costs, revenues, and before you make any final decision. Then the mechanisms, as you all talk about the legalities, there's got to be a whole heck of a lot more discussion with the law department, if that's even possible. Because, I don't know what the school board would think, trying to deed back over, whether they would lease back over. Maybe there are mechanisms that are available if that was a joint purchase, I just don't know enough about it at this stage, but I think it's worth exploring.
One last thing on my goal, if I could, Mr. President. The Canton City Council and this administration, they have to think in the future, not the next election, but the next generation. And I'm telling you, we want young families moving into Canton. And my grandchildren play soccer at Plain Township. Drives me nuts.
Crazy.
I hate it until I annex it. But right now, I can't stand that place. So why?
Mine did too.
Yeah. If
Then
we
you
had-
drive to Lodi, get a load of that.
Yeah. And if we had something.
My boys play the ferry.
Yeah. If we had something here, maybe young parents would say, I'm going to buy it, Ridgewood or Vassar or Colonial or Market Heights. I'm going to buy it because they have.
We'll drive 5 minutes instead of 15.
Yeah. So we have to think about that. That's a huge thing because I'm concerned with Canton in general, not just Parks and Rec, but bringing more people in to live in this city.
Canton United Soccer, when my kids played, had about 60 members, from the little temporary nets to the U15, U16, U17 kids. Now I think they have 300 or 400 kids in their program. They have
Wow.
they have 2 U12 teams, and 2 U11 teams, and 3 U10, or whatever it is. It's a ridiculous amount of kids that are playing on one club soccer team. And I think that when you look at rugby, I talked to Dan, what's his name? He said, man, there's a crush on fields. We can't get field time. So the need is there. Now the question is, as part of the master plan, are we looking at developing other fields in other areas, and to what degree and what expense? What are the fields adjacent to Peel Coleman?
That's what we're looking at in the master plan, to have
What's the
4
name of
fields
the
there.
what's the name?
Crenshaw Park.
Crenshaw Park.
Mhm.
Now, how much money is dedicated to that facility?
That's one of the major priorities that actually possibly one or two.
How much
when that's
money?
done. How much would it cost to do that?
Yeah, down at
We looked at about for the fields themselves, we talked about probably $200,000 to $300,000.
what about for the entire project?
$4 million.
The $4 million project, but the fields themselves.
$4 million goes in. $4 million goes for what?
That was everything. That was a shelter. That's a resurfacing of a tennis court for a handball field. This is, there's a laundry list I'd have to show you.
All down there at Peel Coleman.
Mhm.
$4 million at Peel Coleman.
That's for everything. I'm
Right.
saying we phased
I
it.
understand.
I'm saying, but we phased it where we can have 4 fields for $250,000 redone, fixed to where we can do it. And that's where I'm looking at the value transaction of if we have something already in hand that we can build out as opposed to buying and demoing something. I think we have to take a hard look at that.
Well, what would a $4 million investment in Weiss Park and adjacent property get you? When you talk about when you talk about resurfacing tennis courts, and you talk about lights, and you talk about baseball fields, and demolition of a building and acquiring 14 acres that's highway accessible from Market and Cleveland Avenue. It's 10 minutes from Belden Village hotels, 5 minutes from Hall of Fame Village. Man,
I'll tell you,
that's a slam dunk.
one word, it'll get you use.
It,
Place will be
absolutely,
packed.
absolutely.
Well, the first thing we're gonna have to do is get a sale price.
Well,
And if we're looking at $350,000
No pressure,
for
Greg.
demolition and removal, and then, through my experience with site prep, you put a ball field in, it's at least $40,000 to $50,000 with backstops and clay and all that.
I'm
So,
talking about flat surface, no basement,
well,
no
you're
fences,
still
no
gonna have
exits.
site prep to get that thing graded, to bring it to
I
where
agree.
everything's flat.
I agree.
So you're looking at 2.6 mil. Just going off the numbers I hear, 2.6 million. And, okay, so even if that's our benchmark, the first thing we need to do is get a hold of the law department, and I'll call them tomorrow.
President Rinaldi, I'll take ownership of this project and bring numbers to the board next month.
Well,
The one thing I want you to consider is this: Schroyer Park, all right, Armont, you have Crenshaw Park, you have Morris Field. All of these are wide open fields. All right, it's all about location. Here's the thing you have to consider. If you look at the Jewish Community Center and the property, you spend all this time and money into it. Not only just purchasing, but grading it, but upkeep. Keep in mind, we still have the 4 properties I just laid, no, stop. We still have the other 4 properties we still have to pay to maintain.
It sounds to me like Hall of Fame Village would never get built. Because there's too many reasons why we can't do it.
It's an $8 billion industry that you're talking about.
Hall of Fame Village has Stu
It's a
Lichter.
$500 million project.
And the
You
NFL.
can't even
Takes a
compare.
little-
And Roger
takes a little
Goodell.
bit of-
You can't even compare what they're doing now to what we're doing.
It takes a little bit of vision.
And truthfully.
I have vision. My vision is about location, location, location. There are fields available that people choose not to use.
Right.
They choose not to use them. Why? Because they're afraid. Why are they afraid? It's a stereotype. I played baseball on all corners of this town. I'm not afraid. Why? Because I was raised to treat everybody equally, no matter where you go. It's about their choice.
And truthfully, the southeast community area has been neglected for years.
Wow.
And I think it's about time something be done to improve it.
There was.
There was a good,
There was $900,000.
$900,000 worth of improvements were done there.
I'm
Well,
talking about.
let's
the
stay on
park.
task now. The first
I'm
thing we
talking
have
about
to
the
do
park.
is I will call the law department in the morning, and I will convey to them our discussion tonight, which I think has been healthy and good. I think this has spurred some interest that usually no one shows at these meetings, so welcome for the first time if you're here. But, you know, when we talk about the master plan and what the visions are, you always budget liberally and spend conservatively. But before we get too far ahead of the horse here, I'll get a hold of the Parks Department, or the law department. We're gonna get an opinion to see, they may come back and say this is all a moot point. But if they come back and say that this could be viable, if you have being able to secure loans, that would be a concern with us on our way out and dissolving. The financing part, they're gonna be the ones to say yes or no. Because legally, we have to be able to comply with what coming together looks like.
And if I can add, our master plan final review is on June 28th. So, that'll give everyone here a chance to see all the numbers that Don wants to see that vision, why we've chosen the areas we have to invest in, and then, hopefully all that information is available at the next meeting to make some more informed decisions.
One other capital improvement item I would like to bring up, I do have 2 individuals from the softball, ASA softball, is the netting over at Willard Park. I think it's a $24,000 investment to help with foul balls that come back to, we've had a couple people hit, a couple of injuries. So this is one that if we could look into it, it would be a benefit to that facility right now. The baseball program is going on currently. We have 80 teams coming in from all over the state that are using that. I was down there 8 o'clock this morning. Foul balls were going off. So that was one I did want to bring up, and Ken and Rick are here to talk in regards to that, and what an asset that netting would be, if you guys would like to.
Yep, just want to hear, Greg, in talking about that, I was down to tournament for just 20 minutes. And it was probably a dozen times I heard, heads up. I don't want to hear that
Yeah,
stuff.
fast pitch, with baseball and with fast pitch softball, you get a lot of.
I just
over-the-back
don't
stops.
want to hear that.
Yeah.
But I would like.
Mr. Groves?
Yes, Kenny.
You have the
Thank
floor.
you for waiting, Ken.
No problem. I appreciate, Rick and I both appreciate the invitation and giving us this opportunity to talk about the Willard Field Complex. Rick is our District 10 softball commissioner, took over for John Whiter about 10 years ago, lives in the Perry Township area, and has been involved in Stark County and Massillon softball probably since sometime in the 70s. Being a little older, I started my career in softball in 1966 and then got into umpiring, and now I'm the District 10 ASA events coordinator, which I help bring tournaments here and events, same thing as Rick's doing. I originally worked for the city of Canton for 36 years in the engineering department. Matter of fact, I did the initial drawing for Willard Field as you see it today, about 25 years ago. They put it on the shelf because of the water department property, and they thought they'd have to drill some wells there. So I'm kind of proud now we go forward to 2008 when it was torn down and then rebuilt in 2009. So I brought a timeline of events that we've had at, if you want to pass it down for you. Yep. There's a timeline that's on both sides. From 2008 through 2017, because we have a national tournament scheduled next year for Willard Field, and you can see of all the events, and it started actually in 2009. We had an Eastern Territorial meeting at Bell Village, and we brought in people from Oklahoma City, the National ASA office, and that was the first time they were ever together in Ohio. The president, the national president, plus the CEO of Oklahoma City ASA. And Rick took them down to Willard Field while it was being constructed. And the gentleman told him down there, there's no, I mean, it's going to be a nice complex, so why don't we start to have tournaments here? So we started bringing qualifiers. The very next year we had a qualifier. But the first thing we had there was the Olympic girls softball team came in for a week-long training session. And they practiced at Willard, thought our complex was very nice. Played at Munson Stadium in front of about 3,500 people that evening, at the end of the week. And they've been back, or last year they brought the junior Olympic team back. So we're very proud of what's happened out there. It's our goal to promote Canton and Willard Field as a destination spot for travel team softball. And I think we've done a real good job with that. And that's kind of what the Hall of Fame wants to do. They want to put 9 football fields in. They want to bring in youth tournaments. And we want to do the same thing with Willard Field. I know this tournament that Greg's helping with now is the first time I think baseball has been played at Willard Field. And when it was built more for adult slow pitch. And then we started bringing fast pitch girls in, and so as Ronnie said, we had a lot of foul ball issues. So we brought a gentleman in from Manawa, Ohio, and he put netting up in, I think it was around 2013, at a cost of $45,000. It cut our foul balls going into the other fields and into the spectator area down to about 80%. We kept those 80% of the balls inside the field. And we've had our issues where we've had a few people get hit. And now with baseball, you're going to have more foul balls. So we would like to see it get covered, and if possible, all the entire concrete area, say from where the black poles are. I know he's got one quote from the gentleman that did it initially of about 24,000, but to go even further, especially if you're going to play baseball there, and I think your tournament's going to be successful, and those people want to come back, and it's going to get bigger. You know, we have a tournament in Orville over July 4th weekend that started with 7 teams 10 years ago, and now they have 125 teams of 14-year-old girls. That's how popular that game has become, and I think baseball's going to be the same way. But we would like to see it extended, and I think the ballpark figure for that jumps to about 45.
He said up to the initial 24, you're looking at a possible 17 or 18, depending on how far we go and if he has to put any more poles up.
So for another, I mean, for a total of 45.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. We're all Amish kids that are playing this. 14U, 16U, 18U, 21U. And he wanted to barter because of, of being charged for the fields, and he thought, well, maybe there was a way to barter by them building pavilions that would defray the cost from his tournament. So that's how that got started, and I think he actually brought some people up or sent some people up and talked to Tim or somebody.
Yeah,
in
very
regard to cost.
briefly.
And I don't know what those costs are,
Yeah.
but if I was doing pavilions, I'd like to see one back by the kids area between field 3 and 4, and maybe put one down between 2 and 3, or even 4 and 1, but don't do anything on the main entrance. And and there's other things that could be added to make this a destination point. I mean, we have teams come in from all over the country, and they say, we've never played on a complex like this. This is the nicest complex that we've played on, and they're from out of state, or other parts of Ohio. They've also told us if we had this complex in our area, we'd have a tournament every weekend.
Well, that brings up, I've heard, especially from Member Lemo, that if we can get league play out of there on the weekends, do you think that would be a favorite destination for tournaments and revenue generator? And you think we could,
I mean, just going back to this Amish tournament, and I know Greg said there was a lot of people in there today with coolers and stuff like that, or no, maybe it was Ron, because Ron was there. I talked with Diane at the concession stand today, and I said, how's your tournament going? Not as well as yours, which was, what, 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago. When we hold a tournament, we only allow the team to bring in 1 cooler for water and pop and whatever they drink. We don't allow any food in. So, because we want to promote the concession stand. In our tournament, and we started at 8 in the morning and finished about 8 at night, Diana sold over 500 hot dogs and 30 pizzas that we contract out with pizza. So, I don't think she's doing that well this weekend.
And I would say probably not. I know that since your tournament was more of a one-day tournament, so the teams don't venture out very far.
Yeah.
With this one, it's a 3 or 4 day tournament. They have a game at 8 o'clock, and then they come back at 2,
Yeah.
and then you might not see them again until Sunday.
Well,
So,
I had that today.
And it's rained out today now.
right, and you got rained out
I
today.
got 2 rain
Actually,
plays
it wouldn't
today.
have gotten rained out.
Yeah.
The investment we did at Weiss Park with those fields, the 3 o'clock rain that came in, that was heavy. I got a call from the maintenance guys. They said, hey, because we're standing on the fields right now, and they couldn't play. So the materials that we put down and the improvement we did there, I mean, we were standing, I went out there.
Did they
and I
play?
walked. No, because he canceled everything.
Randy canceled everything.
Yeah, he didn't give it a chance to
But
watch how our
those-
fields
but
work.
those fields held up better than Willie. So Greg from the maintenance department.
At Weiss?
Yeah.
Really? That's
He
good.
said he would recommend that we look at what the cost would be for the infield mix to be reconditioned possibly at Willie for next year, as another capital improvement. But that project was $16,000.
One thing, before I turn over to Rick's system, I talked with the Convention Bureau yesterday, and you know, when we bring things into Stark County, we want people, and we do it, I think we've kind of been taught by Hall of Fame how to do stuff, but we want these people to leave wanting to come back here. And we've won like 6 straight national awards for hospitality in regard to our tournaments that we put on. There's a certain grading level, and we've won 6 of them. We'll have our 7th tournament this year. We've got a national next year scheduled for 17. And that's what we want those people to go back and see, you got to go to camp. Because there's always, their siblings are coming up and playing ball, and those teams are coming back. But according to the Convention Bureau, they told me if the economic impact in our area, if you just come in for a day, is $110 a person. And if they stay overnight, it's $354. That's a lot of money.
And we've got 80 teams here right now.
And you have no local teams.
Yeah,
That's my
No,
understanding.
it's about half local.
Half local?
Yeah, they come out of Akron, Cleveland, Columbus, so the Akrons we would consider local.
So
they
you
don't
think
make
they're
them stay
staying in hotels or are they
Columbus people
traveling?
are staying.
Yeah,
overnight. Well,
Cleveland.
I played a team from Cleveland today, and they drove here this morning, and they're going back home. So I think the Columbus, yeah, I would say anything more than 2 hours they're staying.
Yeah.
Yeah, now see, we have our national boys tournament, which will probably be all Amish kids again, and that'll be the second week of August. And we'll have teams from Indiana, Pennsylvania, maybe Michigan, and South Dakota coming in. Plus, probably the same 26 teams that played here 2 weeks ago from Ohio will all be back. So, okay, I'm done.
And we have hotels now.
And thank you very much for allowing us to
The
speak.
netting, I travel a lot, I go to ballparks there. The netting, when you put it up, it's just amazing the effect it has on the people. It does provide a lot more shade than people think it does. It really does provide a lot of shade.
That's good.
And it protects people. People sit a little more open and watch the games a little more, not fearful of being clobbered. So, I mean, the netting, for the investment purpose, it's great. The only other thing is, we talked earlier, is I'd like to see maybe some sort of security camera system for the parking area out there. We are having an issue with break-ins of cars when you have tournaments. Those are the things that will deter people from coming. Columbus has Berliner Park has 38 fields down there. They can't get tournaments to come in because people just don't go there because of break-ins. So,
They even have signs on the highway.
Yeah, even have signs, yeah.
And when you park in there, it said, please lock your cars, because people will literally get out of their car on the highway and
Yep.
walk through the trees to break into cars.
Yep.
And turn right back around, get back on the highway, and take off.
Where's Berliner?
Down south, Greenwood.
70,
South of-
71.
yeah, 71.
Is it by Green Lawn?
Yeah, Green Line.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you take
see,
the-
that's what I call
right.
it.
They have, what is it, 32 fields?
32 fields.
32
Yeah,
fields.
yeah.
16 of them are turf fields. They can play no matter rain.
Could we use the north-facing netting or shade screen or something like that as a marketing tool to sign the facility
Oh,
from? Because you park on the north side of the fields and walk south into the complex.
What are you talking about, advertising banners?
I'm talking about a signing that Willig Field, because I think the common people,
Greg, you and I looked at that.
casual resident,
With the new roundabout, the northwest facing field, actually that outfield wall,
it's like a billboard.
from 62 you will be able to see
It's a
it.
billboard.
So we've
It's a
talked
billboard.
about that
Oh,
as
yeah,
an
that's great
opportunity,
signage.
just to let, even if it's not advertising, welcome to Canton Parks and Recreation, Willig
Willig
Field.
Field, yeah, for sure.
but I think you're going to see, and again, as we talked about the wooden bat tournament, we talked about the girls to 10, 12. That's probably going to be, it's going to be off years. Girls are 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. We're in the fall going to do an off year, 11, 13, 15. People that are just moving up to the next level, and that's going to end up being a sort of a qualifier to a national tournament. So you're going to see, more teams. But it definitely will help you. You've got a gem out there.
Yeah,
Folks, you have got a gem. It's the most, like I said, every tournament we had last year, I think every team come in from somewhere else going, my God, it's the greatest field we've ever played on. So you've got a gem. Try to promote it.
So what I'm hearing is that we need to invest in netting like every other minor and major league park has in the country.
Yep. Yep,
If we're going to program it the way we want. and
If
with
we're
that
gonna
way it should
protect.
be.
Well,
Do we know what
safety
kind
is
of
never
netting
enough.
we want?
Yes, it's in the quote,
Is it the $14,000 option?
14,000?
Is that what it was?
No, it's 24 for the current quote. It's an
45 for
additional,
the,
an additional
41.
estimated
If you go
40
further
to
up.
45, but he did not come down to remeasure for that additional portion. And he's got to see if he's got to put a pole in for support.
Would this be out of the current year's budget, or would this come out of the
This is gonna be
carryover budget?
Carryover budget.
Boy,
Okay, so here's the netting information.
do we have multiple quotes or just one?
There's only really one company or one group that kind of does majority of this kind of stuff.
Now, this
And
is a
they're
stupid
not.
question, Greg. Everything will be set up with retrievable balls. We're not gonna be
Yes.
poking bats up into the webbing to get
Everything
things
will
down.
be, everything will have a grade.
Have a grade there.
It will
okay.
have a slack to it.
You're right,
otherwise
member Lemon, that was a stupid question.
Well, I just want to be
Oh,
sure.
no, it's very
The
viable.
place I was in Georgia actually had the chutes that came right down to the field, come right down to like a bucket behind the dugout.
Okay.
Or behind the backstop, where the umpires walk back and lift the bucket up.
Yeah.
I'm
ball
gonna
back,
leave in,
bucket, away
still
it
got
goes.
turn, buddy.
Well, no,
Yeah.
If
Very
we're going to
valid
continue
points.
with baseball
Mhm.
and more baseball tournaments,
Baseball
I
definitely
would
needs it.
definitely like to see the opportunity of portable mounds. Those aren't terrible at a cost, but instead of
When was the last time you priced them?
Oh,
3,000
boy.
to 5,000 apiece.
Yeah.
somewhere in there. Yeah.
Yeah, they're every bit of that.
But that, if we did multiple, I mean, if we were going to look at a multi-use
You don't
facility.
pay for it. You don't pay for it.
Yeah, I mean,
Unbelievable. How many people were there?
I don't know, I just, these are some more options.
So, from what I hear from Member Lamo and then Mr. Groves, and the netting, the safety netting purchase, I think we've had discussion, now we need to move forward to where when it comes.
What are we
to-
gonna, what, are we talking about full boat? Are we talking about
Well, I would-
$48,000? Are we
if
talking
we're going
about
to-
$24,000?
If we're going to extend it, I'll have to have him come out and remeasure. So the 24 is to get it from around the building itself, using the center poles that are behind the backstop, up to the front of the concession. Or
Can we
not-
table it until we get firm numbers?
Yeah, I'll have to bring him out to get
Good
that
enough.
addition.
That's fair.
Let's
Because
get
we'd much
exact
rather
numbers.
have an accurate.
And even if there's, I know that a lot of times when you get into the exotic netting, I know I found that I had one company that I used basically all the time because other companies couldn't meet. and couldn't-
Well, this company put up the original netting, so
Right.
he'll be able to,
Right,
you know, go right back and
sure.
Greg, how do you feel about a pavilion? I mean, this is your job.
I don't see it as a use when at Genshaft, they have a large pavilion back behind there, and it gets used none.
Zero.
In my 7 or 8 years out there, I've never seen,
They-
actually, the only time I ever saw it used is when they did the all-night softball tournaments, and then it was just,
People sleeping.
I
No,
gotta
hey, no, hey, that's where they pass, hey, that's where they pass up because they drink all their beer in the parking lot.
when they did redo Genshaft, they put a smaller pavilion up by the parking lot, and it's very small, but it doesn't get rented, it's not a use.
Yeah.
It just sits there.
You know, as much as I like the idea, I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. I was at Weiss Park today, we have a pavilion there. There's that little shelter,
Yeah.
0 people were there. And we were worried about rain.
Well,
Nobody had equipment under
Well,
there. So, but this
we do
netting
rent out
thing
a
is
lot of
so important.
Well, and Weiss, I'm not sure why it was built the way it was. It does struggle because there's no power there.
Oh, okay.
So it's not apples to apples with all of them. But
All right.
I mean, Greg's concerns are valid and your concerns are valid. I think it's something you kind of have to take case by case and figure out whether it's a good fit.
I was shocked that
I
nobody.
would much rather
There was
use
nothing
money
under
for
it.
Yeah,
netting.
yeah.
Now, maybe temporary things that we could put up for tournaments to enhance things. I don't know if that's a possibility.
Yeah.
But I wanted your input on how you actually felt about the,
A structure, I would rather put towards money.
But I think Greg's correct. Most of these teams, the way they travel, they come, they set up
their
a
own.
tent, 2
Okay.
tables, set the grill, and away they go. And when they're done with their tournament, it all goes back in somebody's trunk, and off they go to the next tournament. And you can pop them up.
Easy up 10.
That's what I said, when I go to a tournament, I look around at the tents, I can pretty well name team names
Yeah.
by what the setups are on the tents, the who's who, because
Hey, we should do what the Browns do. For what they lose in revenue and concessions, they charge $20 parking fees.
Well, I appreciate everybody's comments, because I mean, I think, you know, open discussion like this is healthy, because you guys are the ones that are on the front lines doing what you do, and being able to come to us and give us feedback,
you
and
see
we
it,
can
we
make some
don't.
pretty good educated decisions. So, yes, Mr. Brooks?
I just got a few other things. You know, we have that great building upstairs. When we have a tournament, we have the tournament director's office is up there on one side. The other side is umpires. And I don't know what it would take to put in a couple wall units for air conditioning up there. Also, we need some kind of computer internet access, because now with ASA stuff, you can just type everything in and it goes.
I'm sure you have a digital score, you know, real-time stats and all that
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, so I don't know what that would take, Greg, to get internet.
It was, I believe the facility was wired for it, and that's my understanding, it was never brought online from whatever access point it needed to get to the building itself. We did buy a little hotspot that we use for our concession stands this year, so we're seeing a lot of people use that.
Is there a way to share that with
During tournaments, yes.
upstairs?
Yeah, during tournaments,
yeah,
yeah.
Ben used it this year.
Can we
Yeah.
explore,
Another thing would be permanent PA system, because a couple years ago, in working with the Northeast District Board with Bill Schumacher was the president at that time, and they were looking for another location to bring in a high school district tournament. Well, Fairless was losing theirs because their AD was retiring and somebody down there didn't want to pick it up. So it was pretty good timing for us. So during the high school football championships, Bill said, let's go out and look at your field. So I stopped here and get Tim, and we go out. We get out of the car, it's snowing, we're the only three out there. This is in December. And we walk about 30 feet into the sidewalk area, and he says, I've seen enough. And I'm thinking, well, why don't you want to walk down here and see the rest of it? He said, we have nothing like this in the area. You will have a tournament, you will have a district tournament, and we hope to have a regional tournament here. So we talked to him in the future about having regional high school championship tournaments.
Yeah, Bill is a good friend of mine. He conveyed that to me, that he was just so happy with our facilities here.
There may be an opportunity, because this is geared towards tournaments and a lot of tourism, to approach the Convention and Visitors Bureau to help fund that.
Permanent PA system?
PA, air conditioning, internet,
I don't know if
Whatever.
we've ever engaged them in capital.
I don't think we have.
we can.
Yeah, it's worth
Try.
asking, yeah.
Wouldn't hurt.
well, I know with the PA system,
What's the air?
we're gonna have to have something that the speakers, you
Upstairs.
mount them up,
What
you
upstairs?
take them down, or you have something built around them to secure them, or they're gonna be stolen.
The Musco lights that we have out there, they have brackets, and we have the brackets in our electrical room that, I was assuming we could tie into those poles for the netting. They said absolutely not. Those are for speakers, and you have the brackets, and I
Well,
found
you
the
can get
brackets
up-
out there, so you have
Just
to go out there
remember,
and put out the indoor.
Those
outdoor
guys have
speakers.
extension ladders, they'll get up nice and high and get them.
Well, those things are 30, 40 feet up.
When you do tournaments, do you do audio for all four fields?
No.
Just one?
Usually the championship game,
Which
That's
is
it?
Field one.
Field
Yeah.
one, and we do have a sound system that we put in the windows, and it's pretty powerful that we do the championship game.
But
They have
it's,
the option.
but it's temporary.
Yeah,
Or it's portable or
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, right.
But you're saying that the air conditioning in each room
Well,
would
just
help?
like two small 5,000 BTU units, one on each side of that
Right.
building, would be enough to cool that
Yeah, you
whole.
got these umpires between games, that they're sitting waiting for their next
Yeah.
game. We're sending them up into an oven up there, and so.
And we got fans going, and, you know, the windows are open now, but,
It's part of our spa.
Yeah, that's what I told him.
I'm not
Keep
sure
your
that's-
muscles warm.
I'm not sure that's part of the tour.
but
Well, let's explore that.
It's
Let's
the sauna.
let's fact find on what air conditioning look like in those two rooms, and let's get some data on a permanent PA system that we just spoke of.
Remember, in all, you know, field one, I am very humbled to have my name on it. Could we dome it Just a shot.
Actually, I was gonna suggest a sport dome, you know, an airbag.
Yeah, just,
Those are about $250.
Yeah, all I know
Years-
is
Field that size, it's about $250.
years ago, when I was on the board, we looked at air doming it, and it was like 250,000 at that time.
You can buy them used on eBay.
But
you know.
Derek, you guys can think about that.
right, you're just lucky that Martin's here, I had a jab for you.
We'll add it to the list. We got a long one.
I'll talk down my red
I guess that won't fly. Okay, all right.
But thank you guys for coming in.
Well, thank you for allowing us to voice our.
No problem.
Kenny, I appreciate all the promoting you do to help us.
It's a time where you have somewhere to
Rick and I
go.
kinda
With Rick,
tag team.
all of you, just appreciate what you try to do.
Green tonight.
I mean, like Rick said, we have a gem out there, and we need
They
to promote
represent
it.
I'll be
ASA
there tomorrow.
softball.
You know,
I
make
don't
it a
know what they do.
destination spot for softball.
Plug in, baby.
Okay. Let's move on, if there's nothing else in old
You might get
business.
like an administrative.
And I know the
mistake.
hour's getting late. I think that
I have nothing for new business.
staff reports,
They're included in your packet. We're going through them now.
we can read through
Yeah,
those.
staff reports should be included in your
Right.
packets. My director's report was an additional handoff. The one thing I do want to highlight is that this next program guide is an increase of 30% of program offerings, again, from our first program guide that we did a while back.
That is awesome, and I think it's,
We're pushing more and more programs out to the community.
and it goes back 2 years ago when we brought in the two programmers to help. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. So Matt and Don, myself, is really
If I could say one thing,
we're
on that,
increasing.
I want to give you guys credit too on the distribution of those program guides. I think the number of people now that I hear out in the community who are contacting us about things that, you know, we've never offered before, and folks that are starting to associate that with, you know, our respective departments, I think is really strong, and I think that'll only continue. I've never seen this many people actually paying attention to what we have because they know about it, and that's half the battle.
On the flip side of that, we do have our advertising opportunities for the program guide. We've already sold 2. So we do have some opportunities left. If the radio station would like to get involved, I can pass down a thing. So if anybody else knows anybody that would like to advertise in the program guide, we are making 10,000 copies this run, and it will go through the Canton City schools in the beginning, the second week of August when school starts up.
Yeah, August 15th is the first day of school.
Thank you.
So I know the school
When do you
calendar's
have
not
to
out
have
yet, but I
this?
got them to give me a start.
We need to have that by middle of July before it goes to print. August 15th, first day. Do you mind if I just keep going?
Yep, go ahead.
The other thing I have is a letter of consideration for the board for Mr. Pavlis, who did the Weiss Bocce Ball courts.
And it's signed.
It needs signed?
It is signed.
Who's your sign?
Thank you. Then I have no other,
And the only other thing was
Reports.
9A,
9A, yes.
was the meeting, because on July 19th at the Garden Center, there's a merger meeting at 5:30. We talked about adding a meeting in July, well, you read the email, and maybe make it a 4:30 hour before, so we kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
4
You guys,
hours? Did you say 4 hours?
not yet,
Oh,
It's not a budget meeting.
no.
I'm not sure what's set up. Well, I tell you what, we're gonna be in that front. You guys could be in that.
What day is
Decide
it?
who's
Tuesday?
behind
July
there if needed.
19th
Tuesday,
at
July
4:30.
is
And
that
we're all
a
gonna be there,
Thursday?
and we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, so.
Right, is it
No, it's a
Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Yeah, that's a Tuesday.
Greg, if you wanna check the
And what building was this?
Garden Center.
just to make sure there's nothing else in there for us.
You guys already have it for meeting.
There was something in the morning that the garden ladies had, but I think it'll be done by then. I'll check.
And.
You're saying 4:30?
4:30?
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys, everybody check, make sure that all works with everyone's schedule. And before we adjourn, I will get a hold of the law department tomorrow. I'll see if someone's in, I'll go down and share with them. And I will report back to the group. So, Hopefully there's some low-interest loans, like buying a couch, 12 months same as cash maybe, I don't know.
And you know what, I was old before I realized people actually bought furniture on time.
Mhm.
I didn't know.
Out in Phoenix, they have rent-a-rim. You can buy a car and
You
buy
go and pay
26-inch
for it
rims and
and
rent them
get it,
and rent tires. You can rent anything these days.
Okay, 4:30.
Yep.
On the 19th, right?
Yes. And then at
When's
5:30, then
when's
it's the
your
Parks
meeting, the
meeting.
26th?
No, it's
28.
19th.
Wait,
We're having- that's why
28th
we're
is master
meeting
plan, I'm
earlier.
sorry.
20th?
28.
Go 28th.
Tuesday, 28th. And then the
Okay,
19th
alright.
is the transition.
Transition.
I mean, I'll be just-
28th is at 5:30, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
All right.
actually so many
Here?
meetings like that.
Nothing further before us? Anybody else? Any
I move
comments?
to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, all right. Thank you for coming.
Is there